Hello there, everybody, and welcome to another Kerfuffle Showcase. And I am delighted to have honoured to have with me here, Claire Yates. How are you, Claire?
I'm very well, thank you, Simon. Very well indeed.
And we're talking about yourself, but we're also talking just as interestingly about Claire Yates training. So you've come back to the fold, your old love, your old joy of training the people, the wonderful people within this industry, haven't you? So
yes.
You've decided, you've titled this one, what's different about CY training compared with other training providers? I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking through that over the coming month. But first and foremost, for those people that have lived under a rock, would you just introduce yourself and give a bit of background for those people that don't know you?
Yes, of course. So I'm a trainer with humble beginnings. So I started off a career in property just over 30 years ago. Started out as a part-time weekend receptionist up in Lancashire, funnily enough, while my babies were little. And I got the bug really quickly and went from estate agency to new build, from new build to holiday cottages, and then into working live as a panel manager. And I had the privilege of visiting over 2,500 estate agency branches. I think they all had donuts at the time as I went round.
I saw that. That's a great claim. That I love the idea of just ticking these ones off as you're going around them all. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So some people will have remembered me as the donut lady back in the day. And it was fantastic because I learned so much about estate agency, the different areas and how they work. And so after 4.5 years, I decided to help agents to sell more additional services. But also I'd recognise that solicitors needed help as well. Yeah. So they wanted help on how to actually form a better partnership with their estate agency referrers. So I started out as Claire Fletcher training back in 2002 and carried on with that until about 2014. And then, as most people do, I had a series of personal events which interfered with being self-employed. So I took some time out, went back into agency, took some properties on, did some property management, and then worked for TM Group, briefly selling searches to lawyers. And I discovered that what I missed most of all was going and helping estate agents and lawyers. And so I'm back in training again, and I'm loving it.
Excellent. And a couple of things there jump out. So first of all, different referral opportunities, different referral streams should be at the top of everyone's list. It's very difficult to get right, isn't it? It's easy to dabble, I think it's fair to say, but to get that really ticking over, as some of us, I know your clients do so successfully, it's not unique by any means, is it? But it does need to be worked on. It can't happen accidentally.
No, it needs to be worked on. The staff need to actually fully get on board with it for a start. So they have to understand the why, and they have to like the referrals, where they're going to go to, and they have to see the importance of the business. And then actually, it's not as straightforward as it seems. Sometimes they do need some help in some keywords and phrases that will help the clients to buy from them.
Yeah.
So that whole process, and then the solicitors equally receiving the referrals, or the IFA, whichever way you're sending your work, they all need to be teed up to receive those referrals in the way they're intended to get that conversion rate up. So agents that aren't converting at around 60 to 70% of legal referrals, definitely that's something that I can absolutely help with.
That's a great bar as well to be getting. That's okay. That's good. So, and I think that's a key element there, isn't it? You talk about taking the team with you. Too often the business owners, for the right reasons, can go with a particular supplier across any board, but if they forget about the staff, if you forget about it, it never works in the way that you intended it was going to do at the outset.
No, the hearts and minds is vital. And I've seen in the last year that when the staff actually lose confidence in, say, a solicitor that they're referring to, then their referrals are half-hearted and they're not trying as hard as they want, and they're not bothered if the client doesn't say yes. So you absolutely need to get them to understand the importance, the commercial stuff, but also why it's good for the client. And there are so many reasons why it is really good for the customer to be with a solicitor that the estate agent knows, likes and trusts as well.
Yeah.
And it's that communication that's really key to all of this.
And do you believe it is possible to be able to get the team members, the staff members, to be able to sell these additional services as if they should be a benefit to the consumer? You know, so that they see it as not somebody trying to do the hard sell, but actually help them out with what is just another service that they're going to need to have sorted out at some stage anyway.
Yeah, so one of the things that I quite often say to people is in order to move, you're actually going to need the help of 3 professionals.
Okay.
You've got me, and I'm going to be your fundraising. I'm going to sell your house for the highest possible price.
Yep.
The second person you're going to need is a financial advisor that's going to arrange for you to help you with all of those funds and what you can do with them. And the third person you need is a solicitor to arrange the transfers. You can do this the hard way and run up and down the high street, or you can just let me arrange it all for you, and it'll be much easier for you and for everybody else concerned. It is that easy.
Not even a few minutes in and you're already dropping gold dust, like pixie dust all over the place. Fantastic. That's what a wonderful simplistic way of explaining it out there, and I can see how that would work very well with talking to the public. And we always forget, don't we? It's like, I don't know, when we first started, it always used to be put about that people buy or sell property every 6 or 7 years, which obviously we know now is way much longer and everything else there. The public just don't have any opportunity to get good at this unless they are investors, do they? To understand it really, now the vast majority anyway. So we need to understand how to explain it so simplistically like that to get them on side.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, it's for the estate agent to recognise that they're having a game of this from the start.
Yeah.
That they don't know if the seller can sell, and they don't know if the buyer can buy.
Yeah.
And once they put the deal together, they're at the mercy of those professionals. So if they don't do something to influence that choice, then they're left with a stranger that the client brings them. So from a commercial point,
that's not something you'd go into normally, would you, with a lot of confidence?
No, but most people, if they look at the common sense, would say, why am I going to leave the client who knows nothing about conveyancing or sales progression to go and choose the professionals to get me paid?
Yeah. So what was it specifically then, do you think, really made you get back into training? You said you missed the agents and the agency side of things. What is it about it that makes you so interested?
There's an incredible buzz that you get as a trainer when you see light bulb moments going on around the room. When people actually recognize that the person I'm talking about is them.
Yeah.
And I've given them a way of phrasing something to a customer that they can not only take away, but use. And then they come back to me and say, this is the difference that you've made. And that's already happening. I've only been back trading now for 6 months. And the feedback is already coming back to say that you've made a difference. Okay. And I can't get that by selling a product or a service to anybody else, apart from happy customers generally. But when I'm training in a room and it's agency specific and it's geography specific, so I get their market, yes, then the feeling that I get of being part of that company is irreplaceable, even if it's just for a day.
So I get that. So I'm all over that. So we've just finished, obviously, EA Masters a couple of days ago. And that wonderful thing where you see clients of yours or friends of yours winning those awards up on the stage. And it's, it's just to be able to, get that halo effect, just to be there, to be pleased for them is a wonderful, it is a wonderful payback, isn't it?
It is. So yeah, watching sort of new negotiators suddenly saying, so that's why we do it.
Yeah.
To get valuers going, I thought I knew it all, but actually I didn't.
The slightly cynical ones that were like, sat there at the start of the training session like this, and then they warm up and then come round to it. That must go down very well. And again, going back to that fact, all of that, the donut tour, as you called it, there's not a part of the marketplace, or dare I say, part of the country really, that you don't know pretty well, is there? No. Players, you'll know the intricacies of those individual marketplaces.
Yeah, I had a small patch to cover for live. I covered from Penzance to Newcastle upon Tyne and Ipswich to Fishguard. So it was totally doable, totally manageable. But yeah, I've had the joy of working with some of the very best estate agents, both within that panel job, but also as a freelance. And you learn from every single agent. I never stop learning. Yeah. There was a great phrase that a young negotiator taught me the other day. And I said, how do you ask an open question to get the conversation started? And she just says, what's the plan?
Oh, nice. Yeah, Can I ask you this question? How much is understanding the end game, what you're aiming towards, and how much is the importance in specific scripts? And you've just said something there that is a wonderful phrase that can't help. So there definitely is validity in learning these things, but is it just a balance of that, of trying to get there without it having to be too scripted, or is there still a real importance to learn these key phrases?
I think some key phrases will always help you. Some go-to open questions are just perfect, so that when you're struggling to get the client to really converse with you, that you've got these questions to the side. But I think once you really master the art of conversation, because that's what we do, then actually it starts to come naturally and you don't need them. Yeah. But it's always good to have them. Even I have a couple of notes just to prompt me every so often. I can't literally ad lib all the way through. But I think also if they hear the words and they sound genuine and real, then it's very quick for them to start to put them into their vocabulary, and off they go.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And there's some people, clearly there are, but are the vast majority of people coachable, trainable, or are there literally some that just are beyond helping?
There are a few that are beyond helping. And in most cases,
name them.
Mainly their egos get in the way. Yeah, that they don't believe that they can be taught any more about the business. That they think that what they're doing is really good, and they're so busy congratulating themselves that they forget that they're only as good as yesterday.
Do those ones, I would take it though, that wouldn't normally be the guys at the top of it, because why would they get you in if they thought we know everything? So that will be people more junior in an organisation that really are almost feeling a bit begrudged being brought to the training session.
Yeah. I didn't ask to come. I don't think I should be here. That usually is the start. I'm quite often warned about them before I go in the room,
just to let you know he's going to be a little bit difficult. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess the key thing with them is getting them to that the most important one there is self-awareness, isn't it? And it's a difficult challenge, but if you can break through there and let them know, just because this is the way you've always done things does not mean that there are other options.
Yeah.
Even if they don't take everything on board, if they can take a couple of bits out of the session, that's still got to be a win, hasn't it?
Yeah. I think the most interesting thing has been that the pandemic has caused people to lose their way a bit. Valuers in particular are under enormous pressure to bring an instruction home when there's a shortage of property. And the tried and tested methods that they used to use in a slightly easier market are not necessarily working now. So there's a little bit of self-doubt breaking out. And I think that applicants are becoming more demanding as well. And so the straightforward, let me put you on the mailing list, which is an old-fashioned phrase, isn't it now? Yeah. These things aren't quite working. So I think when people go in and say, let's go and take a helicopter ride over the business, and I'm not going to teach you to suck eggs, but just let's go back to basics. Why are we doing it? Who are we doing it for? And what's the end result? Then most people start to sit down and quite enjoy it, because we're sort of pulling it together and then putting it back together.
Isn't that, my perception is that people have always taught the talk, haven't they? Lots of business, you'll be more than aware of this. Loads of business said, we absolutely believe in training and development. It's critical to us. There's a downturn in the market and boom, there goes the training budget as the first thing. So they just don't practice what they preach. Clearly the gap between good, the best and the rest, I believe, is getting more and more. And those good ones are just doubling down. What I think is really interesting now, though, is there is a real keenness from the individuals themselves to self-develop, aren't they?
Yes.
And I think that has to be quite positive for us as well as an industry, but also for you guys as trainers, that some of these people will be asking, we used to have Claire Yates at our previous company. Can we get her back in? Because that's fantastic. And we learn so much from her. You must hear that on an ongoing basis quite regularly.
Yeah, that's true. And I think the other thing is that those people are actually writing my next courses. So a company that I just work with specifically wanted their new ambitious, the newer recruits, the ambitious guys, to feel that the only route wasn't necessarily to be a valuer.
Yes.
And so they asked me to write a course on what a valuer does on a daily basis, the pressures, the highs, the lows, so that they could make a much more informed decision as to which direction they went.
Yeah.
But we also talked about the other key roles in agency and where you could still forge a career and be highly successful. And that's to drive that ambition, that want to be better.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what I try and build in is a bit of personal development about what are you reading? What are you doing for your own personal development? It can't all come from the business. Yeah. I talk about what I read and what inspires me. Yeah. And that's definitely helping. But there isn't, I don't have a library. Well, I do have a library of courses that I can trot out to people. But the thing that excites me the most is when I'm asked to write new stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a lot of that. So I've got a management commercial awareness course now for branch managers and stuff like that. That's a client that's asked me to do that.
Claire, we're going to be obviously talking to each other very, very much so over the coming weeks and months, not least because of Campus, as we mentioned before, our platform there. I can't wait to get into more detail with you as we obviously see CY training develop, as inevitably it's going to do fantastically well.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you so much.
And I'll have a great one. Cheers. Thank you very much. Bye.
Okay, bye.